The voicemail was already 3 minutes long when I answered it live. Just breathing at first, then tires rolling slowly over gravel, then my younger brother Eric whispering, "Don't let them say I left willingly." After that there was this horrible scraping sound, like the phone getting dragged across concrete, and the call cut off mid-sentence. The timestamp said the voicemail had started recording at 2:13 a.m., but when I checked my phone clock, it was only 1:48. I remember staring at the screen thinking maybe I was still half asleep. Eric had been missing for almost 30 hours by then. 26 years old, no history of disappearing, no drugs, no criminal stuff. He worked maintenance for an apartment complex outside Flagstaff and usually answered texts within minutes. When he vanished, his truck was found parked behind Building C with the engine still running and the driver door hanging open. Police thought maybe voluntary disappearance at first because his wallet and keys were gone. But Eric wouldn't have left his dog. That was the first thing I told detectives. His shepherd mix, Rosie, was locked inside his apartment crying nonstop when the manager finally opened the door. Food untouched, TV still on, shower running. None of it made sense. The voicemail changed everything for me though, because Eric sounded terrified. Not drunk, not confused, scared. I drove to his apartment immediately after hearing it, even though detectives had already searched the place twice. It was raining lightly when I got there. Parking lot mostly empty except for a white plumbing van sitting crooked across two spaces near the dumpsters. Engine off. No company logo, just plain white paint. I remember noticing it because the headlights flickered once after I parked, like somebody had tapped the battery. Eric's apartment was sealed with police tape, but the side gate near the maintenance shed stood open. That gate was usually locked overnight according to the property manager. I ducked under the tape anyway. I know that was stupid now. Inside, the apartment smelled damp and strangely warm because the shower had apparently been left running until earlier that morning. Detectives missed something though, or maybe they ignored it. On Eric's kitchen counter beside the sink sat his work phone charging. The screen was cracked but still functioning. There were 12 missed calls from a number labeled Unit 214. What bothered me immediately was there was no Unit 214 in that complex. Buildings only went up to the 180s. I checked the call times. Every call came between 2:11 and 2:14 a.m., same exact period as the voicemail. Then another detail hit me. One of the missed calls was answered for 47 seconds. Eric had picked up at least once. I tried calling the number back. It rang only once before disconnecting automatically. Then my own phone buzzed with an incoming text from Eric's number. Did they search the laundry room? I froze, honestly. Detective still had his phone, according to the report. I called immediately. Straight to voicemail. Another text came through before I could even think. Don't trust the cameras. Then nothing. I ran downstairs to the property laundry room because, at that point, adrenaline completely overrode common sense. The laundry building sat behind the maintenance garage near the edge of the complex. One fluorescent light buzzed weakly inside. Most machines empty except for one dryer still spinning slowly, even though nobody was there. I remember hearing coins rattling around inside it. The weird thing was the dryer timer showed 0 minutes, but kept turning anyway. I opened it, expecting clothes. Empty. Just heat. And Rosie started barking somewhere outside. Aggressively. Not scared barking, warning barking. I stepped outside and saw her standing near the maintenance shed pulling hard against a leash tied loosely around a railing. Somebody had brought her outside. That shouldn't have been possible, because animal control had supposedly taken her earlier that afternoon. I walked toward her carefully. She kept staring at the shed door, growling low. The padlock hanging there looked snapped clean through. Fresh damage. Rainwater still dripping off the broken metal. I called Eric's name once before opening it. The shed smelled like bleach and wet concrete. Flashlight beams from my phone barely lit the inside. Tools hanging neatly on walls, shelving units, mop buckets. Then I noticed muddy footprints leading toward the back storage area behind the water heaters. Large boot prints mixed with smaller ones that looked almost barefoot. That's what made my stomach tighten. Eric hated walking barefoot anywhere, even at home. I followed the prints around the corner and found one of his work gloves on the floor beside a dark stain partially scrubbed into the concrete. I knew immediately it was blood even before touching it. Then my phone vibrated again. Unknown number this time. I answered without speaking. Static crackled for several seconds before a woman whispered, "He shouldn't have opened the wrong door." Then the line died. Right after that, every light inside the shed shut off at once. Complete darkness. I heard movement immediately afterward. Fast footsteps somewhere deeper inside the building. I backed out instinctively, nearly slipping in water near the doorway. Rosie started barking violently now, lunging toward the far end of the parking lot where the dumpster sat. I looked up just in time to see the white plumbing van pulling away slowly with its headlights still off. I tried reading the plate, but rain blurred everything. The van turned the corner and disappeared. Police arrived maybe 20 minutes later after I finally called them about the blood stain. They acted irritated more than concerned, initially, because technically I'd contaminated a possible crime scene. But things shifted once they tested the stain and confirmed it matched Eric's DNA. Detectives searched the shed thoroughly afterward. No body, no obvious signs of struggle besides the broken lock and stain. What bothered me most was the camera footage. According to security recordings, nobody entered or exited the maintenance area all night except me. No van, no Eric, nothing. But timestamps on multiple cameras skipped randomly between 2:29 and 2:26 a.m. Entire chunks missing. Detectives blamed weather interference until another resident came forward 2 days later, claiming she heard somebody screaming near the laundry room around 2:15. She originally thought it was a couple arguing. Then she mentioned seeing a maintenance worker escorting someone across the parking lot afterward. Detectives showed her photos of every employee. She pointed directly at Eric. Problem was, the estimated scream happened after his voicemail ended, meaning either Eric was still there after the call, or somebody who looked exactly like him was walking around afterward. Things got worse about a week later. I started listening to the voicemail constantly, trying to hear background details investigators missed. Around the 6th or 7th replay, I noticed another voice buried underneath the static near the end. Very faint, a man saying numbers slowly. 214, 214, over and over. That number again, the fake apartment number. I went back to the complex during daytime and checked every building map manually. No Unit 214 anywhere. But behind Building C, where Eric's truck had been found, there was an old utility corridor maintenance door labeled 214 in faded paint. Not an apartment, just a narrow service hallway connecting plumbing access points beneath several buildings. Police had already searched it, supposedly. Still, something about that number bothered me enough I crawled through the partially unlocked door myself later that night. Yeah, dumb decision. The corridor was cramped concrete with exposed pipes overhead and standing water across the floor. Smelled awful down there. About 50 feet in, I started finding strange things left beside the walls. Empty water bottles, cigarette butts, blankets. Someone had clearly been staying down there occasionally. Then I found Eric's flashlight, same cracked yellow flashlight he carried for work every day. Batteries dead, mud smeared across the handle. Near it sat an old folding chair facing one specific section of wall, covered in black plastic sheeting. I remember just standing there listening to water drip somewhere in the darkness, because suddenly I knew I wasn't alone. There's this feeling you get sometimes before actually seeing someone, like your body notices first. I backed away slowly. Then a phone started ringing deeper in the corridor. Loud, echoing. Same default ringtone Eric used. I called out his name before realizing how stupid that was. The ringing stopped instantly. Complete silence again. Then footsteps splashed through water somewhere ahead. Slow, deliberate, coming toward me. I ran immediately. I don't care how cowardly that sounds. The corridor felt twice as long trying to get out. I kept hearing movement behind me the entire time, but never looked back fully. Once outside, I slammed the utility door shut and noticed something wedged in the frame. Folded paper, dry, despite all the moisture inside. My name written on the front and Eric's handwriting. Inside was a maintenance work order sheet, dated the night he vanished. Unit request, 214. Issue description, person trapped inside wall. I took it straight to detectives next morning. They searched the corridor again more aggressively this time, eventually tearing down the plastic sheeting section I found. Behind it was another narrow space between concrete walls barely wide enough for a person to squeeze through. They found signs somebody had definitely been hiding there recently. Food wrappers, batteries, old clothing, but no Eric. No suspect either. What they did find was stranger. Dozens of maintenance request forms, dating back almost 8 years, all referencing Unit 214. Different handwriting, different tenants. Same complaint every time, in some variation. Someone inside the walls. Investigators later discovered several people connected to those reports had either moved suddenly without notice or were listed in old missing persons databases across northern Arizona. Not enough evidence to connect officially. Just enough to make everyone uncomfortable. The apartment complex shut down the maintenance corridors permanently after that. Concrete sealed. End of story according to police. But about 4 months after Eric disappeared, I got another voicemail from his number at exactly 2:14 a.m. No breathing this time, no voice. Just rhythmic knocking. 3 knocks, pause, 3 knocks again. It went on for nearly a minute before ending with a metallic scraping sound. Detectives traced the signal to somewhere near the old apartment property, but no active phone was ever found. I still have the audio saved because every now and then I convince myself there's something hidden underneath the knocking. Last winter I played it for an audio technician friend who cleans recordings professionally. He called me back around midnight sounding genuinely unsettled. Asked why I never mentioned the second voice. I told him there wasn't one. He stayed quiet for a second before saying, "There's a man whispering behind the knocking the entire time." I asked what the man was saying. He didn't answer immediately. Then finally he said, "He keeps asking if anyone from Unit 214 ever made it back out."